evening, and welcome to Beware of Spoilers. I am Adam. Like I said this morning, and thank you to everyone who got on and done it already. If you go to multipleworldproductions.com/Black Friday, you can get free copies of all of my books between now and Saturday. All for free. And if you read them and are interested to see where they're going next, you can scroll onto the bottom of the page. There are links to pre-order Echo Delta Part 2, which comes out on Friday, and the next book after that, which is, what's it called? We Are Better Than Our Worst Instincts, which comes out in June. But that's it for the plug. We are here to talk about the latest Steven Spielberg movie, The Fabelmans. How do I feel about The Fabelmans? I didn't go into this movie with expectations. I had heard that Judd Hirsch has a very good role, to the point where he is in solid contention for a Best Supporting Actor Academy Award. And I've heard this movie is going to get a lot of Oscar nominations, based on the fact that it's about an acclaimed director doing a semi-autobiographical movie. It's just, it's one of the things where it's like, alright, it's ticking all the boxes, let's just see how it goes. I had higher hopes for it. I was not thrilled with what we got, because first of all, the movie's 2.5 hours long, and I've said this before, when you have a long movie, you gotta make it not feel like it's long, and you also have to, make it worth that time. And this movie does neither of those things. Like, it's 2.5 hours, and I felt all 2.5 hours of it as I'm sitting there. It is meandering. And the thing is, too, you're watching it, and you're like, well, this can be cut. This can be cut. This can be cut. There's a perfectly serviceable 1.5 to 2 hour movie in there, but there's just so much additional crap that's like, it's not even adding context. It's just kind of weird. And I think that, one of the scenes that early on when you watch it, you're like, this should probably be cut, but it does have some resonance later on, where it's like when his mom is dancing in front of the headlights and he's recording it, and his dad and his uncle are egging her on to continue dancing. And, you watch it, this is weird, because, her dress is visibly see-through, and, you're like, oh, well, maybe it's just, we're reading too far into it. But then it's the daughter gets up and is like, stop, her dress is see-through, this is really weird. And it's I don't understand, and the scene just goes on way too long. There's a scene where she's learning, or she's showing off her, what's it called, her piano, what song she's gonna be playing on TV. They show, there's that. And then it's I just don't that, and then she gotta clip her fingernails because they're too long, and they're clicking on the keys, and you're like, this whole thing can be cut. With the amount of other shit we see, the entire point of the scene is to showcase the relationship between her and the uncle, which, who the uncle is friends with is never really clearly defined, because she refers to him as her best friend. The husband refers to him as his best friend, and it's not even one of the things where it transitions because she was emotionally cheating on her, and they're very specific about that she never cheated on her husband with him. They're very specific about that. And it's oh, well, I just, she very, we never, she doesn't say we never fucked, but that's what she said, we didn't go as far as you think we did. And it's okay, but, then what is the big fucking the whole thing is kind of hinged on this relationship unfolding, and the relationship it has on everyone else, and it's alright, whatever. And then, where the movie really lost me was when you get to the end, where they've moved to Arizona, and they've moved to California, and you're like, oh, well, that, first of all, he goes to this high school that's, the stereotype high school from a movie, where it's every asshole kid is just in this school, and they're all basically neo-Nazis, and you're just can we just move the fuck on with this? And there's a scene with him and his new girlfriend praying, and it's like, it's not even that funny. It's kind of just cringy, and you're like, this could have been cut. We don't need this scene. And there's a lot of that where you're just watching it and you're like, why am I watching this? What, like, there is a very concise story that could have been told in this movie, or you could have developed other things instead. So that way it's like, you don't even get the pass of being like, okay, well, like in Belfast, which came out last year, in Belfast, there are things that we're not privy to as the audience. But the movie is ostensibly Buddy's movie. And Buddy is a little kid. So even like the camera will work in a way where it's like, okay, we're going to hide behind here, so you're with Buddy, and you're kind of getting the same level of information and access as he's getting. So you're kind of put in his position. So when information isn't given to you, it's like, oh, okay, I understand that, because I'm almost a character in this movie beyond just, the viewer. And this movie doesn't do that because the kid's 17 years old for the majority of it. And it's like the whole thing with the train in the beginning goes on way too long. Like, I don't understand. Like, and there's a sequence in the movie theater where I'm like, I want to punch every one of these kids in the face. They go to the movie theater and they're all talking, and they first of all, they walked into a screening of The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance that's already in progress, and they're just like, hey, we want to, talk over the entire movie. And it's like, well, why? Like, why? Like, why? Have this conversation outside the movie theater. Don't have it inside the movie theater. It's things like that just bother the fuck out of me. And it's like, and then you think the movie's over, and it's like 1 year later, you're like, fuck. You got another 10 to 15 minutes from that point where it's like, can we just move the fuck on? And then it's like, there's this really weird moment in the third act where the marriage is blowing up, and his sister comes in and talks about and takes the dad's side against the mom, and he takes the mom's side because there's this whole thing about the scientists versus the artists, which is this weird thing going on in this family, because no one, like, it's this thing where it's like you're either one side or the other, and it's like, no, you don't have to be one side or the other. You can be somewhere in the middle. And they're having this conversation, and the sister goes to him, like, how can you do this after what just happened? You are just as selfish as she is. And how does this conversation end? He goes, hey, can you watch what I've been editing while we're talking about our family, our parents' marriage ending? And can you watch it with me? And it's like, this is the thing where you're like, this is what she's talking about. This right here is exactly what she's talking about. It's a transactionary relationship that you're treating her, that she's in. And it's like, what the fuck? Like, I watched that and I was like, are they kidding? And this is supposed to be played like a tender moment between the two of them, where it's like, okay, well, we're going to have this moment where we're going to have these two characters who are, dealing with this similar issue and are on other sides of the spectrum of how they feel about it, and who's to blame and who's not. But we're going to take that and we're going to, completely just, ignore the subtext and just go, all right, we're going to continue with this. And it's like, it just feels weird. It feels so weird. And it's like, look, if I'm going to watch one self-indulgent director make a movie about their life, I'm going to watch Clerks 3 again, because that movie at least that movie was an hour and a half long, and it didn't feel it. This one's 2.5 hours, and it feels it every fucking second of it. And I'm like, this is just fucking incredible to me. It's just incredible that this is getting the acclaim it's getting. I just don't understand it, because there are basic narrative failings that this movie has almost every step of the way, where it's like, I don't care about any of these characters, I don't care about any of their relationships, I don't care about any of it. And then it's like, there's this really dumb scene that goes on way too long also in the third act, where it's like he's in the new school and he catches the jock kid cheating on his girlfriend, and the jock kid, who's also a massive anti-Semite, starts going after him for being Jewish. And he goes, well, I'm not going to apologize for killing Christ, because that happened 2,000 years before I was born. But you can apologize to your girlfriend because you were making out with that redhead in the hall. And the girl is like, knows exactly who he's talking about, and is like, all right, bye. and like leaves him. So the guy goes and attacks him and punches him in the face, and like doesn't break his nose, but gives him a bloody nose and gives him 2 black eyes. And it's like, all right, well, and he goes, you're going to tell her that you made that up tomorrow. And it's like, all right, fine, all right, that all tracks. And then the next day when he goes to do that, it's like, what the fuck? Like, it's so, it's so silly to me that it's like, and then the scene goes on way too long before she's like, yeah, but how did you know her hair was red? Like, because it's like, that's the thing where it's like, there's a part of me that's like, oh, she's gonna just be like, oh, okay, I'll take him back. But I'm like, but it's so dumb because he knew the hair color of the girl that he never met. And then on top of that, beyond just that aspect of it, there's also the looking at it from the, like, you obviously got forced into making this apology. Like, that is obvious. You have, your face is fucked up. Like, and the fact that this scene goes on, and the girl indulges this nonsense for as long as she does, I'm just like, can we just move the fuck on? And, like, it feels like every scene can be cut. Like, a solid minute or 2 of dialogue can be cut from just about every scene of this movie. Where you're like, well, why does it need to go on as long as it does? Like, at the end, after he shows the video footage of... And this scene specifically, because there's a line of dialogue that pissed me the fuck off. Where it's like... and the thing is, too, the very end of this movie has 2 comedic beats that are very meta, that feel like they're from a different cut of the movie, because nothing else in the movie indicates that this would be like this, where first he shows off the footage of senior skip day, and he's showing it to the class, and the kid who's been bullying him, who was with the girl, goes after him in the hallway, and he's like, well, why did you do that to me? Why did you make me look so good? And first of all, it feels like a Rick and Morty bit, where it's like, this guy is so self-aware of his worth as a senior in high school going into the real world that it's kind of ridiculous. And then on top of that, it's like, beyond that part, ignoring that, there's also the whole issue where what's I'm looking for here? It goes on too long. So I forgot what I was going to say. So this whole thing happens, and they have this discussion about, why did you make me look good in this movie? Because I'll never live up to that standard that you set for me. Now everyone's just seeing me that way. Why would you do that? And then he's, like, crying. And then the other kid, who is also an asshole, but, like, more of an asshole, and more, like, there's so many varying degrees of anti-Semitism in this school that it's like, move the fuck on. Just, like, it's almost as if every Hitler youth that after the war got relocated to this fucking town in California, and is now all graduating high school together. And they have that discussion, and then there's another discussion that happens where then he's like, you better not tell anyone what I did here about me getting emotional. And he says, without a shred of irony or anything like that, I won't tell anyone unless I make a movie about it. And it's like, shut the fuck up. Like, it's in a movie that's meant to be a comedy, like, or more comedic and not being played as a straight drama like this one is, that could be a great comedic beat. But that's not what this movie is. It doesn't work in this context. And the same goes for the last joke, which is he gets a call back from CBS to work on what we find out is Hogan's Heroes, and he meets John Ford on the Paramount, or the CBS lot. I guess it's technically the Paramount lot, but whatever. He meets with John Ford, and they do this whole thing where he's like, go look at the picture, describe the picture, and he's like, no, where's the horizon line? And he's like, there's the horizon, and then the next one, he's like, there's the horizon. It's like, all right, great. It's a kind of funny comedic beat with this guy playing John Ford, acclaimed director who worked with John Wayne for many years. And he goes, and what did I just teach you? If the horizon's on the top or on the bottom, it's interesting. If the horizon's in the middle, it's shit. Now go about your day. And, now get the fuck out of my office. And it's like, all right, cool. And then that's the end of it, because then he's leaving, and you get the final shot of the movie is him walking away, and then the horizon's in the middle of the screen, and you're like, that's weird. And then it very quickly, as if someone's handling the camera, adjusts it up, and it's like, well, that's even weirder now, because that feels like a comedic beat from a different movie. It doesn't feel like it fits with this movie at all. And that doesn't even get into, like, the, you know, like, I don't know, I guess I feel like there's definitely a lot of space for this movie to have improved. And I guess feel like there's definitely there's a good movie in there. Like, Judd Hirsch is great. His whole bit where he comes in after the mother dies. And by the way, when the mother dies, that gives us a whole other kind of weird scene where, right after the mother dies, the grandmother, I guess, because it's the mother's mother, Michelle Williams' mother, and she dies. Like, the next scene, she's in bed and asleep, and she wakes up and answers the phone. And she's like she has this lengthy conversation with no one, thinking it's her mother. And Paul Dano, who plays his father, looks over at her as like, what the fuck is going on here? This is really fucked up. And then he takes the phone from her and he's like, honey, it's just a dream. And then the next day she's like, I had a dream that my mom called me and said, like, someone's gonna come, don't answer the door when they come. And the person who shows up is Judd Hirsch, and he gives his whole thing about, you know, having to be the person you're born to be, even if other people don't accept or understand. And it's a great moment in the movie, and Judd Hirsch kind of has, you know, this Oscar season, he'll be playing the role of Bradley Cooper in Licorice Pizza, where he's got one really, really, really memorable moment in the movie. But beyond that, he's not in the movie at all. And he's got this great scene where he is, you know, telling him, if you think this is what you have to be it. And then he leaves. And then it's like, but nothing bad came of that. Because the initial decision to, like, if you want to say that the incited, like, that incites kind of the beginning of the family drama, because that's what causes Sam to go back into the footage from the camping trip and see all the footage of his mom and Benny, who's played by Seth Rogen, having their, you know, their affair. Like, if you want to say that's the case, that's fine. But the problem is, the arrangement to make that camping tape was not hit after that point. The dad made that deal with him, like, I'll get you the editing equipment if you make this tape. Like, that was done well before that point. And it's like, well, I just don't understand it. Like, I don't understand the entire point. Like, and the thing is, that shaves time off the runtime if you get rid of that scene. And it adds nothing, because nothing bad came of that, where she shouldn't answer the phone. And arguably, only good came of it, because then, like, look, I mean, Paul Dano's got a shitty life afterward. He's probably going to go to Gotham and try and fucking, shoot up an arena. But he still has, like, you know, he's got his son, and they're living their life. And he, you know, and Michelle Williams, who is the one who takes the call, she ends up all the better for it, because she's with the person she really wants to be with. I really don't understand that the point of that phone call being there. It doesn't make a logical sense for that call to be in the script the way it is. There's a lot here that I feel like could have been better handled. I just don't feel like it is a well use of time in a lot of the cases of this movie. But yeah, I mean, look, The Fabelmans is out in theaters if you want to go see it. I mean, I guess I can't stop you. I wouldn't, like, and that was the thing too. It's like, I was like, do I really want to go and spend 2.5 hours in a movie theater? Not particularly. It's not. This is going to be this year's Licorice Pizza for me, I think, where Licorice Pizza came out and it was acclaimed and everyone loved the fuck out of it, and here I am just like, I don't understand the big deal about this. Am I just dumb that I don't understand this? Because, like, no, I understand the emotional beats they're aiming for. Like, I understand what they're going for in this movie. None of it really works for me. And it's just like, well, let's just, you know, whatever. But well, and nothing happens that has profound impact. Like I think that the biggest issue is Sam doesn't really change as a character from beginning to end of the movie, and that's a big deal when your character starts out as a 6-year-old and ends as an adult. The only thing that changes is steals his resolve, but that's not really a change. That's just staying the same, like, and staying the same harder. It's I don't know. There's definitely room for improvement in this movie. I would wait for streaming on it, even though Steven Spielberg, and that was another thing that pissed me off too, was he was like, oh, well, theatrical's important, and HBO Max, with all their streaming stuff, that's, causing issues, that's going to cause issues, and I'm like, if any other director walked in with a movie like, hey, I'm going to make a semi-autobiographical movie about me, and, it's going to be 2.5 hours long, and, it's going to be a period piece, so have fun with that. Like, if Damien Chazelle walked in with that, I think the only other director, like, there are very few directors who could pull that off, and I think it's like Scorsese probably could. I think that maybe Nolan. And I think even Nolan, they'd be like, "Are you sure? Are you really sure?" Speaking of Nolan, I will say it is interesting that the trailer for Oppenheimer, every time they put it out before a new movie, the countdown is updated to reflect how long it actually is until the movie comes out, which is a really interesting thing that they did, and I really like that they did that. That said, I'm not super excited for Oppenheimer, but whatever. So yeah, I guess I feel like there's definitely a better movie here. There's room for improvement all across the board. I'm just not entirely sure. I think that the beginning, the start of it comes with cutting. Like, the start of the correction comes from making substantial cuts and being like, okay, well, this is going to be, we don't need this, we don't need this, we don't need this, we don't need this. Cut it out and move on from there. I think that is the starting position to make this movie better. But we'll wrap up there for today. Tomorrow morning we will have the Santa Clauses, episode 3. And on Friday we will have the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, which I believe drops Friday. I think it drops Friday. I hope it drops Friday, because I've been saying it's been dropping Friday. So, we'll wrap up there for today. And until our next episode, have a great rest of your week.